this during high water events, especially for prolonged times, you start seeing the alligators start slimming down because they're not having that food. And also prolonged times of water also throws off the breeding cycle for the different animals and the plants that are dependent on the dry down of the Everglades. That's where you get crawfish and other critters. They start having their babies. Also alligators, when the water is lower, like when you're coming off the winter into spring, normally water before the rainy season comes in, it starts tapering down, and that's when the alligators historically laid their eggs, just like the turtles and the snakes. Now, because these weather patterns are different and the water levels have been really changing, last year we saw, last year November, just like now, we just hit November, we have a new batch of babies. Normally you see the babies in June, maybe early July, not during winter. So the animals have changed up their cycle. So now we can't say, oh, they do this, this, and this, because they're doing the opposite of what they normally did because of these patterns being thrown off. And sometimes too, what happens is to drain the system and to keep other areas dry, whether it's for agricultural or urban areas, when there's a lot of rain and runoff, they'll send it to here to the Everglades, and it shoots up the water level. And if the alligator has just laid its eggs, if the turtles have just laid their eggs and they shoot up the water, they drown all those eggs. And right now, all the islands being submerged, the only places that the animals have to get out of the water, if some of these islands have a camp, like some of the ones we maintain, and they have a dock out of water, they're forced to be on top of that dock. The islands provide shelter and food. So you're not going to find any deer or rabbits out here because they've either drowned or they've had to make their way to a levee to get food. So it's very important to keep the balance out here. And as a Miccosukee, you know, in my lifetime, I'm only 53 years old. But in my lifetime, my generation, when I was maybe these little kids' age, is to know what it means to live off the land. After I got older, we couldn't depend on the land. You know, we used to hunt and fish all the time off the land. You know, their birds were more plentiful, deer were more plentiful. But when they started getting a lot of pollution in the water, you know, the state sent out letters, you know, advising not to eat the fish or animal or drink the water from the Everglades because it had too much mercury in it. So, you know, my lifestyle changed drastically. You know, my children and my grandchildren, the lifestyle we have now and how we depend on food, that's all they know. I knew a different lifestyle. So most of what I had when I was little is what we found in the environment. So that's drastically, you know, altered how the Miccosukee and Seminoles have been able to live. You know, we'll fish and we hunt, but it's almost like we're just practicing so we don't lose that skill. See here, she's more leery. And anything that hits the water, that sound attracts them. And they're thinking maybe it's a fish or it's a bird, it's something to eat. So they hear something hitting the water, they're going to come investigate. And the birds are kind of smart. They know what distance they have that they can get to the home and stay with them. And also, birds and alligators, sometimes you'll see birds standing on an alligator's back. But it knows the alligator can't get them. There you go. She's hoping you're going to track her or something. So it's still her handouts. So like, these look like nice people. They might feed me.
Holly got a crackle.